There's a silent war at the foundation of our world. It's not fought with armies, but with ideas. It's the war for the true story of how an economy works, why it grows, and why it collapses. For generations, one man has been declared the victor. His name is Adam Smith. The story of his invisible hand is the gospel of modern economics. But what if the map we've been using is missing half the territory? What if, for centuries before Smith, a philosopher from the deserts of North Africa had already drawn a more complete and more terrifying map? A map not of equilibrium, but of cycles, not of individuals, but of tribes. Not of perpetual progress, but of inevitable decay. This is not just history. This is a diagnostic tool. To understand the volatility of our 21st century economy, the boom-bust cycles, the political rage, the crisis of trust, we need to put these two giants in a room together. We need to stage the debate that history never got to host. Adam Smith versus Ibn Khaldun, the individual versus the tribe. The machine versus the organism, who really holds the key to the modern mess. Let's meet our first champion, Adam Smith. The 18th century Scottish moral philosopher looks at the world and sees a brilliant, decentralized machine. Its fundamental unit is the rational, self-interested individual. Think of his famous baker. The baker does not bake your bread out of kindness. He does it for his own gain. Yet, by pursuing that self-interest, he feeds the town. Multiply that by millions, and you get a society. The invisible hand is the emergent magic that turns private ambition into public good. The economy, in this view, is a sublime clockwork of incentives. Start with the individual, and the whole will follow. Now, our challenger. Ibn Khaldun, born in 1332 in Tunisia, looks at the world and sees something entirely different, a living, breathing organism that is born, matures, ages, and dies. For him, the fundamental unit is not the individual. It is the group, the tribe, the dynasty, the civilization. His key concept is asabiya, the social glue, the collective solidarity, the shared sense of struggle that binds people together. An individual alone in the desert dies. A group with strong asabiya can build a city. Khaldun's starting point, the we, not the me. The economy, in a machine that runs on self-interest. It's an output of a society's cohesion. This is our first, irreconcilable split. Is the economy built from the bottom up, by individuals trading? Or from the inside out, by groups building together? For Smith, growth is a function of the division of labor and capital accumulation. The famous pin factory, specialization increases efficiency. As markets expand, this specialization deepens, productivity skyrockets, and wealth accumulates. It's a linear, cumulative, and optimistic process. Trust is assumed. The rule of law is a background setting. The system's momentum is driven by the rational pursuit of profit within stable rules. Khaldun would listen to this and nod, but only partially. He would say, "You are describing the how, not the why." For Khaldun, the engine is not the pin factory, but the trust that allows the pin factory to exist. Growth is ignited by asabiya, a group with a powerful shared purpose. A frontier town, a rebellion, a new dynasty has immense energy. They work hard, sacrifice, and invest in the collective future because they believe in it. They have skin in the game. Low taxes and light regulation in this phase aren't policy choices. They are necessities of a lean, hungry group focused on building. The economy expands because social energy is high. Productivity is a symptom of health, not its cause. So, who explains Silicon Valley or post-war America better? Smith explains the mechanics, venture capital, IPOs, supply chains. Khaldun explains the culture, the shared mission, the change the world ethos, the collective belief that created the conditions for those mechanics to work. The former explains the transaction, the latter explains the spirit. This is where the debate turns dark, and where Khaldun's voice becomes a chilling prophecy. In Smith's framework, systems can fail due to external shocks, poor policy like mercantilism, or monopolies that distort the invisible hand. The fix is often technical: adjust the policy, break up the monopoly, restore free competition. Khaldun's diagnosis is more profound and more terrifying. He says the system is corrupted from the outside. It is undermined by its own success. This is the core of his cycle. The very asabiya that built the dynasty becomes its poison. Success brings wealth, wealth brings luxury. The ruling group moves from the austere, meritocratic frontier to the insulated, opulent capital. They become detached from the productive base that created their power. Incentives shift fatally from creating new wealth to extracting existing wealth. Discipline softens. Positions become hereditary, not earned. The elites are now consuming the system, not building it. He modeled this with brutal precision in his theory of taxation. Early on, low taxes encourage production, so the tax base grows. Later, higher taxes are needed to fund the bloated court and bureaucracy. But these higher taxes kill the incentive to produce. The tax base shrinks. The state, to maintain revenue, raises taxes again, accelerating the death spiral. The state starves not because it taxes too little, but because it taxes too much of a dying economy. This isn't a policy error, it's a phase. It is the logic of the organism aging. Look at our economy through these two lenses. The Smithian lens shows us markets, interest rates, and GDP. It sees the 2008 crash as a failure of risk models and deregulation. The Khaldunian lens looks at the same crisis and sees something else: the erosion of asabiya. It sees a financial elite so detached from Main Street that they could package toxic debt as a premium product. It sees the social contract, the belief that the system works for all fracturing. It sees the post-crisis bailouts not as a necessary evil, but as the ultimate act of extraction, using public money to preserve elite structures while Main Street struggled. Look at our politics. Smith might see inefficient regulation. Khaldun sees collapsing social cohesion, the fragmentation into warring tribal identities, a nation losing its shared story. He would look at declining trust in institutions, soaring public and private debt, and a focus on financial engineering over production, and he wouldn't see anomalies. He would see a society entering a very familiar, late-stage phase. So, who wins? Who really understands the modern economy? The uncomfortable truth is you need both. Adam Smith is the indispensable guide to the day-to-day mechanics of a functioning system. He is the master of the how. But Ibn Khaldun is the essential guide to the life cycle of the system itself. He is the prophet of the why and the when. Smith explains the market's pulse. Khaldun diagnoses the society's fever. One tells you how to keep the engine running smoothly. The other warns you that the entire vehicle is, by its nature, headed for a cliff. The great tragedy of our time may be that we have mastered Smith's mechanics while utterly neglecting Khaldun's warning. We fine-tune the clockwork as the ground beneath it rots away. The final question isn't about who was smarter. It's about which lens we are willing to look through. Do we have the courage to see our economy not just as a machine to be optimized, but as an organism whose health its trust, its cohesion, its shared purpose is the only true capital that matters? The answer to that question will determine our next cycle, more than any interest rate or stimulus package ever could. If this debate reframed your perspective, hit subscribe. The past isn't just a story, it's the only playbook we have.